Hello, I'm Pearl Howie, and welcome to Authentic Success Your Way. I hear all the time from people how much they want to go on retreat, so I thought I would bring you to the wonderful Crouchers Orchards Hotel. It's still early, the sun is still coming up, and they're serving breakfast still. But it's a beautiful place to come and take some time out to relax. This is a series of 7 videos, a journey, even what you might call a retreat, a way, a pilgrimage, a Camino. We're going to go to the beach, we're going to go down to the woods, and we're going to find some places in nature where you can relax, let go, and feel safe to feel your own feelings. I've been one of those people that has had success, or what I might call a notion of success. The time when I had the flat, the car, the job, the friends, the parties. But inside, I felt like I was dying. I felt like I was living what we call a living death, because I wasn't letting myself do any of the things that I loved. I wasn't writing, I wasn't dancing, I wasn't being me, I wasn't making films. So sometimes our authentic success is just about opening up to the things that we have closed off. Sometimes it's about making big changes, sometimes just very tiny adjustments to where we are. But we often feel that we need something else because we know things are just not quite in alignment. Now, I've studied with Native American shaman, and the ancient shaman all knew the truth that the answers are within you. So these exercises, these workshops are just about reflecting back to you what you know inside. So you don't have to do them all, you don't have to do them in order, but they are practices that I have used for many years to find my own way to my authentic success. And we're also going to talk about fear of success. And one thing I have learned is that every single person will face fear of success in their lives. It's the most normal thing in the world. So I hope you'll use these videos as a retreat if you're not able to come away and go on a retreat with me right now. Perhaps one day you will join me here at Crouchers Orchards or another retreat, or find another one that is perfect for your needs. I hope these videos will help you to find your own way, and that I see you down the road on both our ways. Namaste, and I hope you enjoy. See you at the end of the road. So why do we have a workshop, a chapter, a video on development, authentic success development? Well, because we could call this personal development. And not for everybody, but for a lot of us, when we start down that path to our authentic success, we're going to have to decide how we do things. And how we do it also sometimes informs what we're going to do. And very often when we start down this path, we get hit with so many ideas about how to be successful. And one of the things that I always reflect on when I'm looking at structure, the size of projects, how I'm going to do something, is going back to biology, okay? So when we look at animals and we say, they're successful or not, they survive or they don't, they survive in very different ways because they survive by being very different sizes. And if we look at the largest animals, say an elephant, or in water a whale, the way their bodies work, the way that they survive is completely different to the way something like a mouse survives, or an amoeba or a bacteria. These are very, very small and simple structures. But everything works differently. So for example, our elephants, we know they've got to have those big flappy ears to stay cool. So for each size of a project, each size of a business, each size of a family, there are going to be different ways that we manage things. So we could say, for my family, we're very big. So what we do at Christmas is we have a secret Santa. Because otherwise, if we're all buying each other presents, it just kind of gets ridiculous. So that development is looking at what is right for us. And it can be everything. It can be, what kind of home do I live in? What kind of lifestyle do I have? What do I need for me to be happy? What do I need for me to be authentic? And I love my lifestyle because I have a simple home. I live near the beach, which you've seen so much of. I spend a lot of time with my family and even sometimes work with my friends. So what it does is it gives me a lifestyle where almost all of what I'm doing is very much sort of grassroots and close to what is important to me. So in my life, pretty much everything that I'm doing is the stuff that's really important to me, apart from those kind of admin jobs that we have to do. Whereas other people, in order to do what they want to do, they might have a very, very complicated structure and they might have to manage a lot of different things. Say, for example, if somebody's a doctor and they want to research a particular area of medicine, they might need to set up a complicated structure in order to get the funding, in order to get the resources, in order to do what they love. Now, obviously, this is what I love, and it's quite simple for me to teach it and share it and to research it. It wasn't so simple when I was going around the world and learning it. That was a little bit more complicated. But now I can be quite simple about it. And in fact, when I was traveling, I had to kind of go uber simple in terms of just living with a rucksack. So when we're talking about development, it's about not getting lost and not believing the lies of what you need in order to be authentically yourself and successful. Okay. So one of the most important things is to question it, to reflect, maybe think about animals, or maybe to think about buildings, because buildings need integrity. But most importantly, to just think about what is right for you, and that you don't necessarily need to have a very complicated way of doing things in order to be really authentic and successful. When it comes to development, sometimes it gets so confusing and so challenging because we often think of it as more, bigger, better, and all that. But as you can probably tell from the way I'm relaxing on the beach, sometimes just kicking back and taking your shoes off, putting your feet in the stones or the sand is probably about the most luxurious experience you can have on the beach. When we're talking about development, it's so easy to get hooked, okay? Do you get those emails that like, would you like 1 million followers and £1 million? And if we look at a lot of personal growth, self-help, it's the same kind of illusions or notions of success, isn't it? Get a perfect body, get a washboard stomach, lose however many pounds, be attractive to the opposite sex, same sex, whatever. All of those things. And there are so many common hooks. But what I'd like you to do is think about your hooks. Now, if we were live and doing this in a workshop, what we really do is I would partner you up. I'd put you with somebody else and I'd say, sit down and share what are the kind of things that hook you? What are the kind of false successes that pull you in every time. So when you're on your journey, you're on your path, you're doing your own thing, and then there's somebody standing at the side says, come this way, come this way. If you come this way, we'll give you all the treats that you want. And we fall for it. We do. We fall for it all the time. But if we can think about it and focus on it, we can say, okay, maybe next time we don't fall for it. Maybe we can stay true to ourselves and to our own path. For me, I realized recently I got really hooked with the idea of business. Okay? And it was really lovely because people started to contact me and asked me to come and do free trainings locally. The council was running free trainings. There was a free lunch. And I started to go to these trainings, and I really enjoyed them because I would go and do workshops, and sometimes the workshops weren't very good, made me feel good that I could probably run a better workshop. Sometimes I met interesting people, lots of different things going on. And I think for the beginning, at the beginning, it was probably quite a useful thing for me to do, to get out more, to meet people in a more of a business environment, somewhere nice with tables and chairs and posh lunch things. Really nice. And then there was another one and another one. Come and do this training, come here, come do this. And as I was doing it, I felt like I was working, networking, doing all these things. But what I really was doing was buying into an idea of full success. What I really was doing was liking the attention that I was getting for my business. What I was doing was liking feeling that I was good at something and that I was respected as a business person. And then one day I was doing something and I just realized that all of these ideas about business and working in a certain way and doing this kind of stuff it was what I had actually come away from, what I had tried to escape a long time ago. And what I had to get back to doing was understanding my way. Because I'm sure if you have a business or you've been in business, you know that there are lots of different philosophies and lots of people trying to tell you, you're this, you're that. Are you a business? Are you a charity? You can't do this, you can't do that. And you look around and see what everyone's doing. And what I realized is what I am is a shaman. Whether I have a limited company, whether I get grant funding, whether I work with businesses, whether I work with charities, I'm just still a shaman. And I need to figure out in every situation what that means and how that works for me. And I need to stop letting a sort of modern concept or somebody else's concept of business get in my way. And business, that big word, success, was being a hook to me. And we all get sidetracked. One day I might not get hooked anymore, maybe. So now, maybe you want to share it in the comments or get a piece of paper and write it down. Share, think, what are those hooks? What are those hooks that get you every time? Sometimes we do need to take on different structures. Sometimes we do need to take on different roles and staff and support. But if we think about it, development is really about just taking what we need. Sometimes we need a little, sometimes we need a lot. Sometimes we need to walk, sometimes we need to cycle, sometimes we might need a train or even a taxi. And sometimes with development, it means adding layers. So for example, coming down the beach today, it was cold. So I put on like 3 layers. And now I'm here, I am taking off layer after layer, taking off my shoes and socks because it's just too hot, too damn hot. And it's the same whenever we're dealing with anything, really. It's like the tide coming in and going out. And most importantly, breathing in and breathing out. So sometimes we might need to, say, have more certificates, more qualifications, more insurance, more licenses. And we figure that out as we go along. And then other times we can let go of those things because it's just not what we need anymore. So a really great story that I always come back to when I am trying to reflect on what I'm doing and also to help other people is a great story, and I think it's from the 4 Hour Work Week. And it's about a man who's living in a quiet little town, and he's a fisherman, and he goes out every day and he fishes for a few hours, comes home, and he sells some fish and takes the rest home to his wife or gives to his friends and neighbours, family. Then he goes and has a nice long nap. And then in the evening, he and his wife go down to the restaurant where they cook his fish and he has a nice dinner. Then he goes home to bed. Next morning, he wakes up and goes out. One day, a real sort of like a business consultant comes into town, decides to go on a fishing trip because he's bored on his holiday, goes out with a fisherman, and he looks at what he does and he says, "Oh, this is great. What you're doing is so great." He said, "What else do you do for the rest of the day?" And the fisherman tells him. And the businessman says, "Oh, no, you're doing this all wrong. What you need to be doing is you need to be fishing all day. And when you sell your catch, if you can't sell it here, we'll go to the next village, go and sell it over there. You're going to make so much more money. Then what you can do, you can invest that money in a new boat, bigger boat, hire a couple of hands to work with you. Then you can catch even more fish. Well, you might have too much fish. I know," he said, "then you can take out a business loan and you can build a cannery in your town so that you can can that fish and sell it even further away." This, he said, "You'll be rolling in it, you'll be making so much money." He said, "You can do anything you want." And then he said, "You can incorporate, you can become a managing director, you can have a really nice big fancy office in the city, and then you can take as much holiday as you want, and you can do, go wherever you want in the world, and do what you like." He says, "What do you think of that? What would you do?" He said, "What would you do if you had all the time and money in the world after you sold your company and everything?" And the fisherman goes, He said, "Well, I'd go to a really nice sort of quiet, natural location," he said, "and I'd hire a boat," he said, "and I'd go out and I'd fish for a couple of hours. And then I'd come home and, if I had too much fish, I'd just give it away. And then I'd take a nice long nap in the afternoon," he said. And I think you can see from that story that sometimes that development just isn't necessary. And one of the things that we can do is to think about, what is your dream day? What would you do if you could do anything that you wanted for the day, or the week, or the month, or the year? What would your life look like? And I feel like that in my life, that I get to spend a lot of time with my friends and family. I have a lovely home, small, simple. Everyone always says it's very tidy because I just don't have much stuff. And pretty much my life works around me, what I love, that I get to do the things that I love, and that I share what I love with the world. So it doesn't have to be complex, and sometimes it works out in ways that we don't even really plan it. But when we are doing what we love, even if we're not getting paid for it at first, sometimes things move around so that it becomes something that we can do full time. So it's really, really important to think about, what is it that we really want to be doing, instead of necessarily being sucked into the idea that we have to be doing personal development, we have to be doing some kind of business seminar, we have to be reading all the latest books on relationships, or doing stuff with our friends and family that we feel we have to do. So for example, if you've got kids, you know, sometimes we find we end up doing all the stuff with them, like loads of homework or after school classes, or you know, things that we think are important. And then when we really talk to our kids, or we look back at the last sort of 6 months or so, we realise that what everybody really wanted was just to be together and just to have the time to go for lovely long walks on the beach, or to walk the dog, or just to sit and watch a movie together. And that is our bliss, that is our success, to enjoy life. Somebody asked the other day, they were thinking about becoming a psychotherapist, but they were scared because they didn't want to do another degree. They were still a lot of debt from the last one, and they didn't know what to do. And my suggestion was this, that when I started out doing this kind of work, I actually answered an advert in the newspaper from a charity, and they were looking for people who were ex-carers to mentor other carers. And I got all my training from them, all my support, all my supervision, and I learned so much. And I suggested to this person that, you know, rather than necessarily thinking of becoming a psychotherapist straight out of the gate, that they explore and that they look at options, maybe volunteering, maybe simpler things, before they went to the whole, before they went the whole way and decided to train for several years in order just to help people and be a support. Because sometimes it's really, really simple to do that. It's as simple as taking a first aid course. Making this video and creating this particular workshop has been really challenging for me. And the reason is that we teach what we need. And I've been a little bit stuck in my development of my own practice, and also what Pearl Escapes is and what the Fear of Success program is. And as always, when I actually do the work, the answers show up. A lot of times I've sort of tried to start something new, tried to make things happen, either by trying to start new Zumba classes or by offering retreats or all kinds of things. And nothing's really worked out that well. And when I created the Fear of Success book, the first one, that was 5 years ago. And then everything fell apart because that was 2020. Same for a lot of people. But I've always felt pulled by this idea, this vision, and what I've experienced myself of going to these incredible places and experiencing spas, healing, and retreats. But part of me always feels the pull to offering retreats in beautiful places. And in my dreams, what I would love to do is create a retreat space that is open to everybody, that you can come and enjoy all of that healing and exploration and training and development and growth that I've experienced, and just really wanting to give that back to everybody because I've received so much. So what I'm going to be doing is creating an online space that's free to access, and it's a place to come and practice being your authentic self, talking about authentic success, talking about the challenges, but most importantly, just as we did with the Zumba classes way back, is leave your ego at the door. So it's going to be very curated and moderated, and a place for you to be able to come and relax and do the work. And I think one of the big things that's held me back from developing something like this before was being caught in a mindset of business And I spoke a little bit about that before. It was so seductive to think I'm a business person. But what I realized is that the people who have helped me and the places that I've gone so often have been Buddhist communities. They've been places like Bhutan. They have been Zumba classes. They have been gyms. And they have been practicing groups. And sometimes they've been charities. And so I've actually shifted how I want to do things. I want to work in a more, what we might call a sort of charitable way, and figure out what that means as we go forward. But letting go of business models and really thinking more about society, social models, community models, charitable models, and heart-centered communities. And sometimes the most important thing that we can do for our development is nothing. We could call it being Zen, just allowing things to happen, allowing nature to take its course, allowing our own nature to take its course. Sometimes development is nothing but relaxing, stepping back, and stopping. It's amazing how many people I hear having difficulty just stopping, slowing down, taking care of ourselves when we're feeling burnt out or exhausted, or we just need to recover from a workout. Sometimes all we need to do is nothing, or something as simple as having very small boundaries to protect ourselves, to protect our nature, or whatever we're working with. And sometimes we could call this process in nature rewilding. Sometimes we can call this process in ourselves rewilding. Let's just take a moment and think about anywhere you want to do nothing, or almost nothing. Anywhere in your life where you want to put up a small boundary just to protect some time, some space, some processes, to allow things to happen naturally and in their own time. Just take the time to think about your nature, where perhaps we've become overly domesticated, too well trained. What we want to do is just let go of that domestication, that training. Let go of all the things that we've learned and just get back to being naturally, wildly, nakedly, authentically ourselves. Sometimes there are things about ourselves that we've never allowed ourselves to express, especially if we're neurodivergent and we've been taught it's rude to say something, it's antisocial to want to be away from people, to be alone, to be quiet, to be free, to be peaceful. Sometimes we need to just be ourselves, unapologetically ourselves. And it's all about being honest and being true to our own perfect nature. So sometimes with development, it feels like it just means more and more and more and more training. And when I started to become a Zumba instructor, it was great because I had already done quite a lot. I'd been to Zumba class, I had done a lot of salsa, I had made a dance movie, I'd even studied belly dancing. So it was great. I went to conventions, I went to so many things. I did hip hop, I did popping and locking. I mean, I never thought I would ever do anything like that. And I loved it. It was so amazing. I really felt like I wanted to do another training, another training, another training. And there was a point where I thought, because of wanting to go on pilgrimage, because of feeling this deep need to change my life, I had to let go of my Zumba classes and go off. And it was so heartbreaking for me to leave my classes. I loved it so much, but I knew I needed to make a big shift. And I started out, I went to Granada, and it's the home of flamenco. So I actually got to stay in a cave in the mountain, which was, it's so incredible. The energy is ridiculous there. It's quite extraordinary. But one of the things that we do in Granada, we visit the Alhambra, we go to a flamenco show. And every night I was walking along and I would walk past these amazing places. The person I was staying with would tell me, oh yes, you must go to this club. Yes, I will get you a cheap ticket. Tell them, it's Raquel who sent you. It was the ideal dream place. But I couldn't go because it was so raw, having just left my Zumba classes. And I knew that if I went to a flamenco class, I would just be being pulled back into learning more and more dance. And I was trying to break free of that and do something different. But what I did get, and this was so magical, is when I was in my little cave room in my little single bed, the walls of the cave are the mountain, the Sacromonte. And I could feel the beat of the flamenco coming through the walls from the clubs, because they were also in the mountain. They were built into the mountain. It was a really extraordinary thing. But I didn't go to flamenco. And as I was traveling, I was really trying to sort of avoid dancing. And then I went to Mexico and I did a training with Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., Don Jose Ruiz. And on the night of the New Year, so 31st of December 2016, they had a special treat for us. And what they did is they brought Aztec dancers. And there was a fire outside. We had a beautiful dinner inside. We had climbed the pyramid in the morning at sunrise. We've seen all the balloons. It was so magical. And that night we went and we had a fire, and we also wrote things and burnt it in the fire. But we had this incredible entertainment of Aztec dancers and drummers. And we weren't allowed to take videos and pictures of them when they were actually dancing. It was sacred. It was special. So the pictures that you see here, they were taken afterwards or before. And it was so, the costumes, the music, the fire, the darkness, it was so amazing. But what was truly amazing was this woman who came out with all the green feathers, and she came out and she danced. And I sat there and all I could think was, what is this? Wow, what is this? And I looked at it. I wanted to learn to dance like that. I thought, what is she doing? What kind? It's Aztec dancing. And part of my brain was thinking, what are the steps? But I was also lost in the dancing, lost in the entertainment, lost in the spiritual ritual and everything. It was so powerful. And I couldn't understand what she was doing. She wasn't smiling. She was so fierce. She was so, just alive. And I was trying to figure out what it was about this dancing that I had been missing for 6 years at least of being a Zumba instructor. What is she doing? How is she doing this amazing, transformative it's something different. It's something I haven't experienced yet. And I went away and I kept on traveling. And then one morning, probably months later, it hit me. It was so direct. And it was this, is that she was dancing without fear. And that was what I learned. And it was a lesson in dancing that I couldn't have got, I don't think, at a Zumba convention or in a classroom or anything like that. I had to go outside. I had to go somewhere far, far away. I had to get live, get out there with all the strange things that go on, with all the weather, with all the disturbances, with everything, be out there. And to have that penny drop, that what it was all about, that next level for me was learning to dance without fear. And one of the biggest things that we have to look at with development, and I want you to I feel like saying gird your loins at this point and just get ready and get strong, maybe, ground yourself on the floor, is sometimes as we're developing, as we're growing, as we're changing, we evolve and we get to a place where we need to let go of how we have been doing things and move into a new way of doing things. So we could call it leveling up. We could call it making a shift. We could call it development. We could call it anything that we want. But what we're doing is we're going from a place of doing things one way to another way. And it's often because we've become stronger, or because we've finished that stage of our development of our life. So it could be going to college, going to university, leaving university. It could be leaving home for the first time, or maybe having to go home. It could be changing where we live. Any of those things. And a lot of it happens because we are successful. And if we look at our fear of success, very often what we're fearful of is that change and that shift. We're afraid of development. So just getting comfortable. Think about anywhere in your life where you've been doing things a certain way, and perhaps you've even been dreaming of doing things differently. And just look into your heart at anywhere where your dreams are beginning to come true. Perhaps you're ready to move on. Listen to your heart. Listen to yourself. Are you ready to take the next step? Are you ready to start to do things differently? Perhaps you were feeling weaker. Perhaps you were feeling ill. Perhaps you were feeling poor or broke. And when we work with fear of success, we understand we are working with the fear of our own power. So take this time to own your strength, own your abilities, own your power, and look forward at your path, your way, and allow yourself to feel free to take the next step. And in this moment, just feel your own authenticity. What is true for you? Not to try and do things before you're ready. Not to wait too long. But just to feel all the nature around you, the weather, the timing, and know when it is your time to move on and let go of the past. Thank you.